A couple of days ago, in one of our WhatsApp groups, there was shared a quote by Swami Kriyananda. Self-transformation is the first and foremost thing that has to happen. And many people wonder, is it really possible to change ourselves in a fundamental way? Or, no matter what we do we eventually revert back to where we started, to our old habit pattern, like the dieter who loses weight and then repeatedly gains all of that weight back again? And overcoming an old habit pattern can seem like an insurmountable problem. When I was in university, I was failing my studies. I was too restless. I just couldn't focus. I couldn't concentrate. And one of my friends seemed calmer and happier, and she said it was because she meditated. And I believed that meditation could cure my restlessness, but I felt too restless to even try it. I felt I could never do it. So it was this vicious circle that just continued. Until at a certain point, I realized how unhappy I was. And I made a choice to be happy. I chose a positive direction and just stuck to it. And that was what got me out of that. An alcoholic sometimes has to hit bottom. He has to lose everything that was of value to him in life. And then he's left with only one choice, the choice to change. But the miracle that happens once we take up a daily spiritual practice, the miracle that happens is that we just don't need to reach that point of desperation. On its own, through daily meditation, through daily spiritual practice, so many of our tastes in life fall away of their own accord. And this is not just a theory, but it's been verified over and over. So many times our meditation students have told us, with just that daily practice, that they no longer have the same taste, the same desire to smoke, to drink, to eat meat, through no effort on their own particularly, just through this daily practice. And instead of reacting with uncontrolled anger, maybe they still feel anger rising up in them, but they feel they have a choice how to respond. And then eventually they no longer even feel that anger. They just feel acceptance for the way things are. And what also accelerates this process is devotion to God and the subsequent grace of God and Guru that descends to us. Before discovering the spiritual path, Swami Kriyananda tells how he tried very hard to change himself in various ways and engaged in self-improvement for several years. And he found, once he started meditation and by attuning himself with his guru, he found that some of the old habits that he had worked for years to overcome fell away all by themselves. And so it was through his meditation, but it was also through his devotion and the grace of God and Guru. I saw dramatic examples of self-transformation in the last weeks, helping to lead a pilgrimage of 30 Westerners to the places of our gurus and other saints around India. And we had a meeting the first day the pilgrims arrived. We had another meeting the last day before they left. And the first day, well, a number of them arrived on the day after Diwali, which is very often the worst air day in Delhi, only to return a week later, and the air was even much worse than that. Naturally, for these reasons and many others, these pilgrims were very self-preoccupied. They were thinking of their health and their cough and how they could breathe. And 3 weeks later, their interests were very different. It was recounting this deep spiritual experience that they had. It was asking the question, now, how can I integrate this inspiration into my daily life? It was, how can I serve others spiritually? How can I make a difference in the world around me? Swami Kriyananda said once that for pilgrimage, 2 things are necessary: the place and the pilgrim's own receptivity. And a lot of people might live in a place of pilgrimage and feel nothing. And if a person is sensitive enough to feel the vibrations in that place, that's needed, as well as the blessings that are there. Yoganandaji said, if you go to places where masters have lived, the vibrations there will quicken your realization. The master's divine vibrations are still there, just as strong as when they were physically present. Those who are in tune when they go to holy places will feel that presence. But first, one has to meditate and prepare himself. It's said that a dip in the Ganga will purify you of all sins. And Yoganandaji would joke. He said, yes, it will purify you. But your sins, as you dip in the Ganga, the sins are sitting in the tree on the riverbank, ready to jump on you as soon as you get out. What he's saying is that transformation of the pilgrimage can be temporary unless we integrate it into our deeper selves, unless we feel that change inwardly. The drunkard needs a sip of alcohol every now and then. Likewise, we must take regular sips of silence, of peace, of joy, and always go back to that inner joy. And pilgrimages are one reminder. And the real pilgrimage we have to go inside to find. And feel that we're always on this inner pilgrimage. And this is the attitude, this always feeling that we're a seeker. This is the attitude that will make those changes permanent in our lives. We're never stationary. We're always seeking God in an inner way, deeper and deeper. To finish that quote of Swamiji, he said, self-transformation is the first and foremost thing that has to happen. But we must also do whatever is in our power to share God's love and joy with others. These 2 taken together should be our focus: deep self-offering to the Guru and the dynamic sharing of God's love and joy with other truth-seeking souls. Thank you.
It was interesting when Keshava was talking about the pilgrims coming and, of course, being concerned about their health when they arrived. And they did all sort of get sore throats. They're not used to it like we all are. And when they came back, the smog was much, much worse than the day after Diwali. And so then you ask yourself, and even at the end of the pilgrimage, it was much, much, much worse. But none of them were thinking about the pollution anymore. They were all thinking of God, and they were all thinking of how amazing India is, and that these places of pilgrimage, that these places of deep vibration are here, and that they were so lucky and grateful and had such good karma to be able to come here and to be able to meditate in all these deep, amazing places. And so we can look at what is transformation then. It's obviously, they've come from clean air and come to smoggy air, and that was a type of a transformation, and then they got in smoggy and smoggy. But what was transforming? It was their inside. From the inside they were being transformed. The outside not only stayed the same but got worse, but from the inside they were transforming into more and more open, receptive souls that were seeking that oneness in vibration. And isn't that true for all of us? When so many people come and learn to meditate, they come because maybe they don't have control of their emotions. They want to get over their anger. They're not happy in life. They, so many different reasons people come to learn to meditate. But it's amazing that at the end of, maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks of meditating, when we have a circle, almost to every single student, their lives have been transformed. Because just in 6 weeks or 8 weeks, they have started turning the searchlights of their mind, the searchlights of their senses from outside, saying, I want this to make me happy. I'm going to go do this so that I feel fulfilled. I'm going to go do this so that my desire's fulfilled. Or I'm going to get rid of this because I don't like this anymore. And everything's about what's going on outside of them. Or my family life is terrible, or my work life is terrible. And that's why they came, because they're so miserable. And yet, at the end of this 8 weeks, nothing outside of them has changed. But they're saying, my life is different now. All my focus, all my energy is starting to, those searchlights that have been going out, their whole lives is suddenly focused inward. And when we start seeking inwards, and all of that energy that's been pouring out into fulfilling countless desires and trying to control the world around us so that it fits with our version of what reality should be, suddenly all of that energy that's been going out is now going inside. Instead of changing the world outside of me, I'm going to change myself. And that's what makes all the difference. And so at the end of these classes, they're saying, I feel so much peace. I never felt so much peace. I never was able to get along with my sister-in-law. We're getting along famously. Nothing outside has changed. Work suddenly is okay. I'm now getting along with my boss. I'm getting creative solutions to my problems. And, and what was that? Something so simple. God's call within, calling us within. And, I had a very similar life that I was always seeking outside, and I realized that I was that seeking outside just wasn't giving me what I needed to. And so I started reading lots of spiritual books and knowing that the spiritual path was what I wanted. But still, like 15 years I spent reading books, thinking, that sounds good, but never really doing anything inside it. I was still seeking, I was searching outwardly in books. All my energy and money was going into books. And I knew in my heart I needed to meditate. And, it wasn't until I got to Ananda that I actually sat down and started meditating. And, even though all those years I knew I had to meditate, I still wasn't meditating. But I came into an environment of meditators, of people that were really deeply seeking God. truly they were on a spiritual path, and suddenly it was easy for me to be on a spiritual path. Suddenly I wanted to learn to meditate, and I did start to learn to meditate. And as I was being slowly transformed, my friends and family around me were questioning this, just saying, we want the old, I was Diana then, we want the old Diana back. And, they didn't want to necessarily do this searching. They didn't want to seek. My energy was changing. My magnetism was changing. I was around other people who were spiritually magnetic. All my energy that used to be going out into the world or down into just self-concern was now suddenly starting to get refocused and brought up. The whole direction of my energy had changed. So all my magnetism had changed. And I was around other magnetic people. So as my magnetism started to change, suddenly the people that I used to go out with and do all these things, they started to drop away. And I started to do more at the ashram, at the temple in Palo Alto. And I started to serve more, as Keshava was saying. All that energy that used to go into fulfilling my own needs and my own desires was starting to, how can I use that energy in sharing with others? My time, my resources that I used to just give for self-fulfillment, started to go into serving others and giving to others. And as Keshava read in the affirmation, suddenly my thinking of myself was being expanded into something so much bigger, and my identity started to expand. And as as I started to think of myself as a part of this congregation or a part of so many other souls in this group that I wanted to help and I wanted to serve, suddenly I started to transcend my ego little bit by little bit, and I wasn't so self-concerned. And that's what gave me joy. All that joy I'd been seeking in so many different ways, suddenly I was finding it. I was finding it by connecting with my soul and God, and I was finding it by expanding myself through service. And, it was such just having my magnetism change, and then, just thinking of the Bible quotes that I'd always heard, blessed are the pure in heart, for they should see God. They shall see God. And, I never even thought it was possible. But as I started to purify all my desires and all of my attachments, it's like suddenly I was having experiences of the divine, as Yogananda has defined them. That deep inner peace, that deep sense of calmness. I've always, as you can imagine, been quite a energetic and restless person. And suddenly, after all these years, I was finding, wow, peace is inside. That calmness is inside. That light gazing up. That divine love I'm finally feeling in my heart. So that's what the masters ask of us, is purify your heart. Find those things that you're holding on to, these desires that you can't let go of, these things that you think, if it's only like this, then I will be happy. You have to surrender those. Swamiji says, create in your mind, in your consciousness, a bonfire at night. Offer everything, all that you have, all that you are, up to be purified in the evening before you sleep, and sleep with a sense of freedom. And even in the next morning, if those are still there, then in your meditation, offer them up. Turn your whole life into a purification process for your heart, and then you shall see God. And then he also says, blessed are the poor in spirit, it says in the Bible. That means you have no ego. It means if you want to get over this sense of me and mine and just any sense of separation. I want to be one with God. I want to not renounce the world, but I want to see God in everything. And I want to experience Him in every person, in every moment. And, Swamiji created this Festival of Light. And in the Festival of Light, we pray and we say, Lord, with all my heart, with all my strength, with all my soul, with all my mind, I choose Thy love. I choose only Thee. And that's what I really want to. I feel like, I've transformed so much from those early days when all I thought about myself. was about myself, and now I have given almost all my time and my energy and my resources to sharing whatever I've learned with others. But we can always give more. We can always offer ourselves more and more. And I feel like with all my heart, mind, soul, and strength, I don't know, I still have parts of my heart I need to offer. I choose thy love. I choose only thee. I want my every thought, my every desire to only be in oneness with God, in love with him, and to feel his love. So I'm certainly still on the path of self-transformation, and I'm so grateful that I have so many wonderful friends to walk that path with me.